Hi, my name is Rachel, and I am the creator of the Hope for a Better Marriage Patreon community and Facebook group, where I encourage and support women in transforming their marriage without having to force their husbands to participate. There is a lot we can do on our own to become better versions of ourselves, which can inspire and encourage change in our marriage and in our husbands. I want to talk about today the moment, really probably one of the most important moments in my marriage. I am coming up on 11 years of marriage, and this probably happened about 4 years ago. I was reading The Surrendered Wife by Laura Doyle. The newer version is now called The Empowered Wife. I would suggest reading that one. It's a little bit easier to read and better updated and whatnot. But, anyways, I was reading that and I can't remember exactly when it happened or how it happened, but I just remember this like crushing realization of how much I had hurt my husband in our marriage. I had been viewing myself as majority the victim and thinking that I was only doing this because he was doing that. And if he would change, if only he would change this, then I could change this. And honestly, it was very immature thinking. There were times when I did honestly want to be a better wife and make changes. He had been trying to, share, open up, and be vulnerable with me, but I just didn't know how to change. And he couldn't tell me either. So I was just so frustrated and stuck. But I remember I was fixated on a lot of like the problems he was creating in our marriage and how I wasn't feeling loved and supported. He wasn't speaking my love language. There's so much I was focused on what he was doing wrong. And I just had this moment when I was reading the book where it just like hit me, like really hit me, like the scales were fell from my eyes. I could see the big plank in my eye. And that it's a painful process, but a lot of like I tell women like basically we all have to go through that at some point, and if we don't, like it's going to be really hard. Like you're not really going to be able to probably make changes in your marriage unless like truly you are a perfect human being and haven't done anything wrong. But if you are focused on your husband and what he's doing wrong, what he's not doing versus yourself, um, there's not going to be much change. So the real important moment in my marriage was when I really saw for like really clearly all the ways I had hurt and rejected my husband in the first like 6 to 7 years of our marriage. And he had been trying to tell me, and I tried to listen a little bit, but I still went back to thinking like, oh, but it's you're doing this and you're doing this, and if you would only do this, then we would be fine. And like I said, very immature thinking. But I didn't know better, and I was following, common marriage advice, and and I just felt stuck because I even like we went to a few marriage therapy sessions, and I just wanted the tools. Like both him and I are kind of like self doers. Like we just need the tools, and then we can apply them on our own. We don't need someone to walk us through it, like in like 10 steps or whatever. So when I read this Surrendered Wife, now the Empowered Wife is the new version. It really laid it out. It made it clear and gave me action steps and skills and tools that made it so much easier for me. And it was really painful for me to realize, because I had, been thinking that I was the victim, and I realized how much pain I had inflicted on myself as well. Because I would stew and cling to every little tiny negative thing that my husband said or did and magnify it. And he was so frustrated because he really wasn't a bad husband. And he was trying to do his best too. And I escalated a lot of things. He'd say, "Why are you making a mountain out of a molehill?" And I would be like, "I'm not." And I was. So, the biggest, one of the most important points of my marriage was the day, and whenever, I don't exactly remember the details, but the time when I really realized how I had contributed to the state our marriage was in, and how I had hurt my husband, and how I wasn't as much of a victim as I thought. And then with the Surrendered Wife, I had the tools to become an empowered wife where I no longer had to be a victim. And I realized how much agency I had in our marriage, how much influence I had in our marriage, and how my husband really was a good man. And I hope that you have a similar experience, and I am here for you if you're in that painful stage. It is really easy to just get consumed by the shame, be discouraged, feel like things aren't going to change, but I don't want you to stay there. It's really important to like go through that process, but it shouldn't be that long, and to have a community of support to bring you out of it. So I'm here. Please like and subscribe, comment. I hope this is helpful. It, like I said, it's not a fun process, but you can look towards the future, and you can be. We don't have to be victims of the past. We don't have to be like, yeah, in chains to what we did in the past. There is hope, there is forgiveness, there is mercy. And I'm going to talk about how to handle when your husband is not handling, is very resentful and upset about the past. We're going to talk about that too. But there is hope. And yeah, it's a hard part, but it's an important part of changing your marriage.